Okay, Senator Donnghaile.
Yep.
You've 8 minutes.
Thank you. Thanks, Las Cahirlach. And Minister, thank you. I welcome the opportunity to speak on second stage of this bill. And I want to begin by signalling our support for the legislation, but would also state that it comes with a caveat. That is, we wish to see it significantly amended at committee stage, and we hope the Government will be open to such amendments given the many criticisms of the scheme as it currently operates. I think it's all well and good bringing this legislation forward, and it is, hoping to see it progress speedily, but unless it addresses the deficits within the current scheme, it will only compound the hurt of those it claims to benefit. It's also worth pointing out that the Department of Justice have been less than cooperative in this regard, and without commenting on the High Court case that seen the Minister fight for the exclusion of women from this scheme on a technicality, I cannot say the Department has covered itself in glory in that regard, nor was it in any way considerate or compassionate. In fact, quite the opposite approach has been taken. About 18 months have passed since the Ombudsman published his report following an investigation by the Office into the administration of the Magdalene Redress Scheme. The Ombudsman's investigation found a serious inconsistency in the Department's application of the Redress Scheme's eligibility criteria. Women recorded as admitted to a different institution closely associated with another named laundry were wrongly refused admission to the scheme. Even after the investigation was complete and the recommendations prepared, the first instinct of the Department was to push back. In evidence to the Justice Committee earlier this year, Peter Tyndall told members that in his 10 years as Ombudsman, he had never reached the point where a department had, prior to the publication of a report, absolutely and categorically refused to engage in the process of accepting and implementing the recommendations made. And if I can quote the report, it goes on to say, "My investigation found a serious inconsistency in the application of the eligibility criteria in that women were admitted to the scheme who were recorded as admitted to one particular institution closely associated to a named laundry, while women who were recorded as admitted to different institutions closely associated with another named laundry were refused admission to the scheme. This was despite the almost identical profile characteristics and relationship with the associated laundry both institutions shared." End quote. On the 16th of April 2018, Minister, you announced that you were bringing proposals to expand the scheme to Cabinet the next day, yet it has taken over a year for the Department to table this legislation. So you'll forgive my cynicism, but it does appear that delay after delay isn't a tactical issue, but rather a failure and opposition to making this a political priority to the point where it was fought in the High Court. I take no satisfaction in kicking the Government on this matter, but their performance to date has been abysmal and disrespectful to the hurt and the pain endured by survivors and referred to by other colleagues. The legislation itself applies the Magdalene Redress Scheme to women who worked in the institutions covered by the scheme while residing in certain adjoining institutions. The bill before us makes the necessary technical amendments to the 2015 Act to expand it to apply to women who worked in the institutions covered by the scheme while residing in certain adjoining institutions. Again, while the bill is welcome, it does not address some of the fundamental flaws experienced within the current scheme, and we'll be seeking to take the opportunity to amend it accordingly. And I will be moving an amendment to ensure that the promised healthcare, as outlined by Justice Quirk, is finally provided by the scheme. The Government accepted that the recommendation of the Quirk report in full in 2013, but has yet to uphold this particular commitment. As has been noted extensively, the women who are part of this scheme aren't afforded the standard of healthcare in line with that provided for through the Health Amendment Act card, or HAA card. The card is one of the most important cards awarded by the HSE, as it gives entitlement to a range of services for the lifetime of the card holder. And Justice Quirk recommended anyone who qualified for this scheme be awarded that particular card. Such services as complementary therapies fall within the remit of the card and are vital to those who seek to avail of the scheme. The scheme as it currently stands doesn't afford people within it to access any such therapies. The benefit of alternative and complementary therapies are well documented, particularly amongst those who have experienced traumatic events and suffer with anxiety or depression or conditions more complex than those. And I have seen that in practice firsthand, Minister, working with survivors and victims of the conflict in the north. These grassroots complementary and alternative therapies really do often provide a real lifeline for people who are dealing with bespoke needs and requirements. So I can't stress the need for that enough, because I have seen firsthand the benefits that it can have, albeit granted in different circumstances. In August 2015, several dentists confirmed publicly that instead of receiving HAA standard services as recommended by Judge Quirk and agreed by the government in 2013, Magdalene survivors have been given a card that entitles them only to limited and incomplete treatment for most medical card holders. The dentist called on the Council of the Irish Dental Association to publicly disassociate itself from this act by the government and to speak out publicly on behalf of its members who don't accept the injustice that they are expected to support. So I feel that an amendment that ensures the HAA standard services are realised as promised is going to be unfortunately necessary, and I would hope to see cross-party support for such calls, given that they were promises made many years ago. There is also the issue within the context of the current scheme that is access for healthcare for women abroad. We understand that women in England are receiving reimbursement of their medical expenses, but this is a huge problem as the women need the state to pay for their healthcare up front. The majority of these people simply don't have the means to pay out of their own pocket and then get reimbursed. There may be other issues that come to the fore that we feel are necessary to address, Minister, whether at committee or report stage, and I do hope that you can work with me and with colleagues to fix the shortfall within the current scheme to ensure these women are able to access the type of healthcare they deserve and which the government has committed to initially.
Senator Conway, are you